Oh, we have really spread out today.
Sure do. Did everybody grab something?
We could literally be at one paper right there.
Yeah.
You a liar, it's like-
It could be, but let's have it.
Using Syracuse.
Brian, we got a quorum?
Brian.
Yes, we do.
Excellent, because I can't quite tell, but it's fine, don't worry about it.
Yep, we have Darren here in Albany. We've got, I can see Dave
Okay.
up in Jefferson. I can see Scott in Montgomery. We've got a full
All right.
quorum today. Erica was not able to join us today.
Yeah, I knew that. All right, good, if you think you're ready?
I think so. We hit the record button.
It's recording.
All right.
All right, I will call the meeting to order. Let's start with introductions. I'm Dale Stein, Chair.
PJ Hemrick, Region 2 Associate Environmental Analyst.
Ryan Cunningham, Region 4 Associate Environmental Analyst.
Tyler Knapp, Environmental Analyst with the committee.
Dave?
Dave Brass, voting member.
Back to you, Brian.
All right, Scott, you want to test your audio for us? Scott Ryan?
Got Ryan, voting member, NYACD rep.
Excellent.
Morning.
All right, you're in Albany?
Ben Luskin, Region 5 AEA.
Brian Steinmuller, Assistant Director?
Darren Hickling, Vice Chair.
Bethany Bizdu, Program Manager.
Abigail Edwards, Excelsior Policy Fellow with the State Committee.
All right, I see a few of our advisory members are on the line, so I'll just go through different agencies, and if you're here representing those agencies as advisory members, just let us know. Anyone here from Ag and Markets?
Good morning. Yes, this is Jeff Keogh from the Agricultural Protection Unit.
Hey, Jeff, welcome. How about CDEA?
Yep, Dustin Lewis here, Saratoga Soil and Water, CDA president.
All right. Hello, Dustin, welcome. DEC? Anybody from DEC on the line? Okay. How about Department of Health?
Paul Kazmarzik, Bureau of Water Supply Protection.
Hello, Paul. Welcome. Anyone else from DOH? Okay, how about,
Yeah, just me today. Yeah.
okay, Paul, thank you. How about Department of State?
Hello, this is Stephanie from the Office of Planning and Development.
Hello, Stephanie, welcome.
Thank you.
How about Cornell Cals?
Hey everyone, this is Brian Rom.
Hey, welcome, Brian.
Hey Brian.
How about Cornell Cooperative Extension? Okay, anyone from NRCS? All right, no NRCS has a state technical meeting today, so probably won't be joining us. How about SUNY ESF?
Good morning, this is Steve Shaw.
Hey, Steve, welcome. Okay. Go through, I know that a few of the staff are there in Syracuse on the line. State Committee staff, Scott Fickbaum.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Sorry about that. Hello.
No worries. Good morning, Scott. How about Jennifer Clifford?
Good morning, Jennifer Clifford, CRF Program Manager.
Welcome back, Jennifer, to your first state committee meeting since July. Okay. How about Brendan Jordan?
Morning, everyone. Brendan Jordan, CNMP Specialist for the State Committee.
Good morning, Brendan. Victor?
Morning. Victor Giacomo, Regional Field Staff for Western New York.
Great, thank you. Greg?
Good morning, Greg Albrecht, AIM Program Coordinator and CNMP Specialist.
Wonderful. All right, I don't have the list in front of me. Did I miss anybody? Okay. And I just want to welcome all of our conservation districts and partners on the line here today as well. You all have panelists speaking privileges, so during the meeting and during the district reports, if you have anything to add for the committee, please go ahead and take your phone off mute, but please introduce yourself with your organization as you do. I think that rounds out our introductions. Dale, back to you.
Thanks, Brian. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for participating today. Correspondence and staff updates, Brian.
Oh, I think we got to review and approve minutes, Dale. Then we'll do that.
I crossed it off early. Sorry about that. All right, any additions or corrections to last month's meetings? Minutes. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Go to voting. Scott?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you. Now we can go to correspondence and staff updates.
Okay, thank you. I actually don't have any official correspondence to share with the group today. I do have a couple of updates on staffing. First, the division had selected an administrative assistant, a position we've gone without at the division for many years now, and I've reported on many times here at state committee meetings in the past. We are waiting for HR to finalize the offering of that position to that individual. Hopefully that works out, and by next month's meeting, I will be able to announce who that is. And this is really critical to the function of the division, but also for certain state committee functions, including maintaining and our email lists and just correspondence, overall correspondence to our conservation district. So looking forward to finally being able to fill that position. Second update, the executive director position offering has closed. We did receive about 7 applicants for that position, all qualified and reviewed by our Human Resources Division here, and we will be conducting interviews tomorrow for that position. So hopefully there will be more to come in future meetings. This might take some time also to get this position fully approved through the governor's appointment process, but happy to announce that we are moving forward with that. And we did receive a number of interested and qualified candidates for the position. So more to come.
Great. Anything
That's
else
all
on
I have
that?
on staff updates. That I
Great.
think will do it for today.
Okay. Oh, plans of work.
Okay, there's a really long list. First and foremost, I just want to note that all our conservation districts submitted their annual plans of work to their regional AEAs by that November 1st deadline. That is important for performance measures and just overall importance for us to be able to approve these plans of work before January 1 of the following year. And our regional staff have been very busy reviewing these plans of work, providing some feedback to the districts. A few of those districts are bringing their plans of work back to their boards for approval. And mainly those are the ones that we'll approve here at the committee next month. Other than that, just about all conservation district annual plans of work will be approved here in November. So with that, I'm going to run down the list, and I only need one motion for this. So all of these annual plans of work are recommended approval by the regional coordinators. And I've got the list already written out and formatted for the minutes, so that'll be easier there as well. Okay, the following annual plans of work are requested for approval by the state committee today. Albany, Allegheny, Broome, Cattaraugus, Cayuga, Chautauqua, Chemung, Shenango, Clinton, Columbia, Portland, Delaware, Dutchess, Erie, Essex, Franklin, Genesee, Greene, Hamilton, Herkimer, Jefferson, Lewis, Livingston, Montgomery, Nassau, Niagara, Oneida, Onondaga, Ontario, Orange, Orleans, Oswego, Putnam, Rensselaer, Rockland, St. Lawrence, Saratoga, Schuyler, Seneca, Steuben, Suffolk, Sullivan, Tioga, Tompkins, Ulster, Warren, Washington, Wayne, Westchester, Wyoming, and Yates County. I'll ask regional field staff, if you didn't hear one that you think should be on that list, let me know. Okay, I'll take that silence to mean that I think I got them all. So,
All right.
Ready for
Motion to approve the plans of work, please.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
A second? Moved and seconded. Go to voting. Scott? Darren?
Aye.
Dave? Approved. Thank you very much.
All right, so for December, there'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to approve. And that will be all 58.
Excellent. Okay, next on the list is state aid for Part C performance measures. Ben?
Yeah, thanks, Dale. So yeah, up on the screen is the draft of the 2023 proposed performance measures evaluation worksheet. Basically, the major changes on this was just going back to what the performance measure standards were pre-COVID. So as a quick refresher, when COVID hit in early April of 2020, we modified performance measures to make it a little bit easier for districts to accomplish qualifying for the performance measures because we did not want the pandemic to unfairly punish any districts and not make them able to meet the performance measures standards. I think we've seen that it was a good decision over the last few years as there was a number of districts that were not able to meet the original standards as they were in, we'll say, 2019. But over the last few years, more districts have been able to meet those standards more regularly. The few that were kind of outstanding that more districts still were not qualifying for seem to be performance measures 1 and 5 that had no money associated with them anyway. So I think some districts, there was evidence they were still trying to meet them. They just didn't quite get there. Other districts, I think, just kind of took the opportunity, maybe not to put in their full effort to meet that certain questions. But overall, most districts, I think, tried their best to get there. We've analyzed the data some. There are different breakdowns that we've gone over briefly in the past and gone over here as a staff, trying to make some sense of the numbers. There doesn't seem to really be rhyme or reason to a lot of it. But that being said, the thought is that for 2023, we will revert back to pre-COVID performance measure standards. So on the screen on the worksheet, so essentially the difference between that center column that says 2022 and the column on the right for 2023, we really just flip-flop those two columns. So everything on the left for the COVID performance measures that we've been following for the last 3 years, on last year's worksheet would have been on the right. But anything in red on the right is really what we are changing back for this year, or we're proposing to change back. Keep in mind, voting members, as I discuss this, we will be looking for a motion to approve this at the end, or if anybody has any questions or comments. But for the last couple of years, for performance measure 1, traditionally this is the hardest performance measure to meet because it requires the district directors to attend trainings. A lot of them, going out of the office and attending state and regional meetings for that 1G is always the hardest. So we lowered that to 0%. It wasn't worth any money for the last couple of years. So we're putting that back to 10% for next year to where it was. A few notes in red on the page that as long as districts are meeting the open meetings law requirements, virtual meetings, as long as they're being done as ours is right now, do qualify as one of those 8 meetings that the districts have to have throughout the calendar year. Also for 1B and 1C, training of district employees and board members, we just wanted to put a note in there that virtual trainings are allowed. They do not all have to be in person, which is really something we allowed before. It just wasn't really noted. So wanted to provide some clarification on that. Really everything else on this page is the same. Abigail, if you want to scroll down. Nope, that's all right. And this page as well is just listing all the different options for trainings. So nothing has been added or changed compared to what was on there before. Keep going. Performance measure 2, for the last couple of years, we had upped that to 15%. We're going back to 10% of the funding. And we had lowered that to only requiring 3 of the different education, outreach, presentations, reports, publication opportunities. So districts only had to meet 3 the last couple of years. We're putting that back to 7. And for the last 3 years, performance measure 2A and 2B were actually combined into 1. So where previous to COVID and what we're going back to, all together, districts had to meet 12 different options in these 2 performance measures. They only had to perform 3 over the last few years. But again, 2A was one that districts really still did not have a problem meeting. I think most districts are doing all these things in their day-to-day operation, and really COVID overall didn't affect them really beyond 2020. Most districts were back doing a lot of this work, even if it was in person the last couple of years. Yep, you can keep scrolling down. No changes there other than for the annual plan of work dates, obviously will be different for this year, but it's the same time frame due to the AEAs by November 1st for approval by the state committee either in November or December of next year. Going. Performance measure 3, we had up to 35%. We're lowering that back down to 30 where it was. We had it at completing 2. So there's 7 different performance measures. Standards that the districts have the option of meeting for performance measure 3. The last couple of years, we had lowered that down to they had to meet 2 of them. We're putting that back to 3 of them. And also number 2, there's an option for partnerships there where we're putting that back to 4 partnerships as opposed to where it was 2 for the last couple of years. And again, that's one that we saw varying numbers on from districts. A lot of districts were still able to meet that minimum of 4, just as they have been all along. There was some that would only list 2. So kind of whether or not districts were only listing 2 because they just had to meet that minimum criteria or not, hard to say, but don't really have any worries that districts are going to be able to meet that criteria going forward.
What defines a partnership?
Defines a partnership
In this case, I mean,
in this
does it have to be
case,
a formal thing? Or?
Not really. No, it's fairly loose overall. Both 3 and 5, performance measure 3 and 5 both deal with some partnership stuff. 5 kind of defines it more for like NGOs and that sort of thing. Partnerships on number 3, there's varying opportunities, like I said, to list partnerships. Some are with other districts. A lot of districts list NRCS, different county agencies, that sort of thing, that they could be partnering with various.
But it's usually partnering on projects or some level of programs or projects.
Right. I mean, it could be anything from a tree and shrub program to road bank seedings to stream bank renovation. I mean, really, it's a big, wide amount of different, variability across the state, what districts are doing. there. Yep. Keep going, performance measure 4, we had upped that to 50% just because we had a lot of confidence that was going to be about the easiest performance measure to accomplish. I think we are right there. I don't know that there was maybe only a couple of districts in the state over the last 3 years that hadn't still listed 5 or more performance measures as we are going back. So we're lowering that back down to 40% so that we can redistribute those funds across those other performance measures, and upping the qualification back to 5 on this. Really, like I said, there's not many districts that have an issue with this. A couple of my counties downstate have a little bit of an issue from year to year, just because they do not participate in our in-house grant programs as often or at all. But still should not be a problem going forward. We're good there, Abigail. Keep scrolling. And performance measure 5. So this tends to be the second hardest performance measure to complete. That's why we also lowered this one to 0%. We're putting that back to 10 for this year. Nothing else changed. Those 3 questions are all remaining the same. They did the last couple of years. And same thing as performance measure 1. Most districts, it looked like, tried to complete this as well as they could. I think maybe the most districts in this performance measure fell short. Where I could tell they really tried to accomplish this because they would fill out 1 or 2 or but not all 3. So that would show me that they did struggle in some instances to accomplish this one over the last couple of years. But it was, only a handful or 2 here or there. And definitely as we progressed from 2020 through 2021 anyway, it showed that districts were accomplishing this a little bit better. And I would assume when we get the data come February for this year that most districts probably will be able to complete all of these, or have been able to complete all of these. So I think that's about it. Like I said, it's a quick rundown. We're not making any major changes. We're just going back to where we were pre-COVID for the time being. And in 2023, we'll be having discussions about where we will be looking to head for 2024. So, if anybody has any questions, comments.
Yeah, I just want to say too, for 2024, and I think we had in the past tried to do 2 years so that districts could gear up for any potential changes and know what their expectations would be for the following year. Maybe that's something that we discuss in 2023, so we could set both the 24 and the 25 year. But stay tuned for pretty good discussions with districts on looking at raising the bar, looking at how we can use these performance measures to best incentivize, increasing district capacity, and just overall proficiency of districts. Great thing is it's not a competitive program, so that means that we can have those discussions very broadly with any district who has got the time, and I know they all have the interest to attend such a meeting. So looking forward to those discussions in 2023 for the 24 and the 25 years for performance measures.
Anyone have any more questions or comments?
Hey, this is Dustin from CDEA. I just had a quick, 2 quick things. I know you added that virtual meetings would be accepted for the trainings. I don't know if it would make sense to add that for the statewide meeting attendance as well, if that's okay, if we're gonna call it out for 1G there. I don't know if that makes sense to add the virtual to that. And I know there was some changes to open meetings law. We just want to make sure everybody's aware of the new rules, especially if we're going to call out that it must meet the current open meetings law requirements. I'm sure some people are not up to date. So if we have any options or if there's any links for any connection to updates or small meetings that we could watch, webinars, that'd be great to send out to the districts just so we can keep everybody up to date.
Yep, thanks for those comments, Dustin. Yeah, absolutely, we can put, virtual trainings are allowed for 1G, that's not a problem. And in regarding to open meetings law, we can definitely put a link to the most recent, open meetings law requirements right there in that top line, in red, for the 2023. And then maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea. I think we did send a memo out a few months ago, or even back in July, maybe. I'm not sure when that went out. But resend that out to districts as well, just as a refresher.
Can put it on the SharePoint too.
Right. Yeah.
SharePoint, yeah.
Put it on SharePoint. And this, once approved as well, we'll make sure this becomes a not draft copy, and this will be posted to SharePoint, in the next day or so as well.
Thanks, Ben. I had one other quick thing. I know water quality coordinating committees come up as one of the committees that count too. My understanding is those have to meet current open meeting law as well, because they're a subcommittee of the districts. So I don't know if it should be added to that line too.
Added to which line, Dustin?
There's one section where water quality coordinating committees count. It was the one that I think had 7 things you had to do.
Oh, yeah.
I believe it's down
Performance
further.
measure
If water quality,
Yep, I see it.
if they count, we just got to make sure they're doing, holding them appropriately with open meetings law as well, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, we could look into that and make that change.
Yep, we can add that in there, maybe with a if applicable sort of comment. But, no, absolutely. Thanks for bringing that up.
Further questions, anyone?
Corey Humphreys has hand up.
Corey Humphrey, hand up. Go ahead.
Never mind.
Motion to approve, please.
Motion approved.
Second.
Second.
Scott.
Moved and seconded. We go to voting. Scott.
Aye.
Darren.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Approved. Thank you. Thank you for the work, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks to the districts that, adapt and overcome in large part over the last couple of years. The work hasn't been easy for anyone, and certainly that's true for conservation districts, but really done an outstanding job, keeping things moving forward, and, their compliance with the performance measures, even as they might have been had we not changed them, was proof of that during those last couple of years. So thanks, I'll go to them.
Okay, well, next on our agenda is technical advisory, Bethany and Brian.
I guess I'll start, I think. So back on November 1st, we had a technical advisory committee meeting that was focused on discussing the RFPs for the upcoming rounds of the Climate Resilient Farming Program and the Ag Non-Point Source Program. We, as a group, talked over some tentative timelines, the available funding amounts that will be offered through the RFPs, as well as some of the proposed changes that we would like to meet or to make to our RFP documents. We will be having one more technical advisory committee meeting at the beginning of December. I sent out a save the date yesterday for December 6th to kind of have one more final discussion to go over the changes to the RFPs and finalize those. We do plan to present our draft RFPs at our next state committee meeting in December as well, where we will review the RFPs for each of our rounds respectively. Is there anything you want to add?
No, that was great. And the only reason why I'm presenting on this right now, and not Jennifer, is Jennifer was still on maternity leave, and we had this TAC meeting, but left us in a really good place to continue the discussions that we were having back in the summer. And Abigail was able also to put together a presentation for me to run through at that TAC meeting, again, talking about timelines for CRF 7. And remember, this was the year we received a really large increase in the EPF. So, looking at a possible $16 million RFP. So we went over funding availability for the given tracks. Again, talked a little bit more about timeline and talked about expansion of tracks that would be more encompassing of overall, let's say track 1, overall methane reduction, track 2, really overall adaptation and resiliency, and track 3, again, focusing on soil health, but making clear that agroforestry and other types of systems and different types of farms would apply under soil health. I'm not going to get into the details now because we'll be coming back to the state committee in December with RFP approval, including the policy changes that we would like to recommend to the committee for these RFPs. And I think that about covers it.
I have one more thing, actually. So with our RFPs, we do still intend to release them jointly, as we have for the past couple rounds. So the timeline is still very tentative, but we do intend to announce both programs, both rounds of funding at the same time, and then stagger the deadlines accordingly.
And because CRF would likely have the more significant changes and funding increase, we would keep that RFP open longer.
Brian, with the track 1, do we need to do an outreach program to try to get more to participate?
I think with all the tracks, but yes, absolutely track 1 for sure, because that's where our deepest reductions are for agricultural emissions.
I mean, there are farms, I've got to talk to my cousins, that have separation in place already, and we really ought to have personal contact to every one of them farms to see if they would look at it at least, to try to get enough for track 1 to sign up if this is going to be increased like it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been putting some thought to that. I know that Greg, you've worked on, kind of a bit of a an assessment of readiness, right, for manure cover and methane capture. And I think we really do need to focus on outreach. So, Greg?
Yeah, that's my thought too.
Okay. Thank you. And also the Climate Action Council scoping plan scheduled for approval by the council at the December 5th meeting. So assuming that gets approved, then all the strategies that exist in the agriculture and forestry chapter will be there as a roadmap for us moving forward, which includes expansion of current programs and exploration of new programs and incentive structures for farm level adoption of practices that reduce emissions and also increase sequestration. And I know, Dale, you've been also very vocal about how we position our programs in conservation districts to assist on that forestry piece as well. So I anticipate there to be a lot more conversations about that with our partner agencies, and I think that will also be really critical, for us to meet our goals.
Yeah, I personally am looking for a lot of input from districts on that and ESF on that. If we're looking at forestry projects, we need guidance because I'm definitely not an expert in that area.
Yeah, no doubt.
Anything else on Technical Advisory Committee, Bethany?
Not at this time, Dale.
I just want to warn everybody, December, I know it's so close to the holidays, but both Ag Non-Point and CRF RFPs will be the focal point of the state committee agenda in December, so we'll really get into depth on those policy recommendations and overall, metrics for both those RFPs.
Excellent. Next on the list is Ag Non-Point Source, Bethany and Tyler.
Tyler, why don't you go ahead and kick things off with our program
Sure.
status report?
All right, let's see if we can get this fired up on this end. Zoom to presentation. Excellent. All right, so Ag Non-Point Source, some program updates. Similar to last month, I added some graphs and stuff back in just to give a little bit more of a visual, but we're going to work our way down a little bit. So the table at the top, so there's 8 active rounds. Again, I'm focusing on kind of the bottom column or row, but if anybody has specific questions, we can break it apart a little bit. So 8 active rounds with a total contract amount of just over $120 million. Of those active rounds, there's 373 contracts across the strait. So there's almost $5 million pending for round 19 round 27 contracts. Additionally, there are 36 pending contracts for round 28, and they're valued at just over $13 million. There are 159 active contracts, and those are all at various stages across the 8 rounds, and those are valued at roughly $57.8 million. Districts have completed 152 contracts, and those are totaling $45 million, roughly. I'm rounding just to save everybody a little time. So the graphs show the similar thing that I just kind of went over. It's just a little bit more of a visual. Does anybody have any specific questions on amounts, rounds? I might defer to Bethany if there is, but we can work that out. No? Okay. So broke down a little bit more for a little bit more of a comparison on funding versus the number of contracts. So this was quite interesting. So on a quick comparison of the amount of funding per round and the number of contracts executed across each of those rounds is that graph on the left a little bit. If it's a little confusing, I can break it apart a little bit. So the blue bars represent the number of contracts per round, which is kind of on that right-hand column a little bit. And then the green line represents the total funding amount. And then they have the dots that correspond with those fundings on the left. So highlights, just kind of wanted to throw in some extra numbers on this. So the average number of contracts per round was 41. And that's all the way since inception, okay? While the average funding per round, total funding, not the contracts, but the total funding per round was about $8.5 million. So I kind of wanted to break it down a little bit further. So I think I'm moving up into that little table in the upper right-hand corner there. Oh wait, no, I lied. That's next. Sorry, we're still on the graph. So I broke it down a little bit further, and you can kind of see some trends, what you would expect to see, some smaller, more smaller grants early in the program, and then that kind of progressed into fewer larger contracts as the program expanded. Exactly kind of what you would expect to see for the program. We can also kind of see a pattern of direct linkage develop kind of after round 20, which was quite interesting. So the number of contracts per round was kind of starting to directly correspond with the funding amount, which was kind of fascinating just to see why that's starting to happen. And I don't know if that's the reviewing or that number of applications. What would be interesting to do is actually break this down further and see how many applications we were getting in versus how many were actually funded. A little bit more complicated to put that together, but it would be interesting. So we can also see that the funding amount might not necessarily influence by the contracts by round, but it is kind of showing that pattern from now on. By comparing the average contract amount across all the programs, so now this is that upper right-hand corner, we can see that the contract amounts have definitely gotten larger. So the overall contract amount across all of the rounds was just over $200,000, while prior to round 21, it was only $151,000. But after 21, now we're seeing over $300,000 contracts. So it's kind of an interesting, quick analysis of the program just to see where things are lying. As funding fluctuates, so does the number of contracts. But we are seeing this weird linkage now, which is I think appropriate actually. So I realize I was kind of all over the place. If there's any questions, I can try to break it down a little bit.
That's really interesting.
Again, it would be very fascinating to compare this to the number of applications, just to see, say, on round 22, we got over $16 million. Did we actually get more applications for that round as well? Or are we just able to fund more? I would also like to see if more districts are applying, or if it's kind of the same players a little bit. So there's a lot of analysis that could be done further, but we don't necessarily have that in the database, so it would just take a little bit more time to put some of that together. But
yeah, our project database from the very beginning was only unfunded projects. We lose a lot of really good information by not capturing the unfunded projects, but if there are targeted questions, we can, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, specifically for round 22, I recall we did have about 125 applications come in that year. And I think that coincided with the updates to the CAFO permit. So you know, we had a lot of applications come in for waste storages that year. It also would be interesting to look at this and compare it to when like our other programs kind of came to be, because that might also be why we're seeing a little bit of a decline, because now we have the climate resilient farming program as well as our AEM Tier 4 cost share funding, so it's a lot more opportunities for farms to seek cost share assistance. So we're able to fund perhaps less contracts with bigger budgets, but we're also still meeting the needs of the farms, I hope, through other programs that are out there too.
No, definitely. And what I could have done is I could have overlaid the two on top of each other, the two programs, just to see if that is the case where we're seeing growth, which I'm sure we are. So I think you're probably correct there. So, any other questions? Comments? Throw me under the bus?
This is Paul from DOH. And yeah, it's interesting what, in the circle, the correlation you see there. But I don't know. Yeah, I always look from year to year, like what we fund, and to sort of take, without doing any real statistical analysis, to see if I can see trends. And my guess is that this kind of neat correlation here probably doesn't say too much, honestly. It's just kind of looks cool. But I don't know if we could really get much data from that, honestly. As Brian was saying, we're not looking at what's not funded, and certainly, with the districts getting funding, separate funding, and also CRP. I mean, I'm sure those have had a profound effect on the kind of projects we're seeing and everything. So. And I don't know if there's enough years really of that happening to really draw some good data out of that yet. But anyway, good work. It is nice to see, interesting to see, long-term trends.
Definitely. I think the important piece really for me coming out of this is if we start to see an increase in funding for these programs, are we actually going to be able to fill those needs with contracts is kind of where I'm going at. Just because we get $50 million for a round, are we still gonna have enough contracts and districts to be able to do that work?
I think,
Hopefully.
I think ag non-point source will, because if I remember right, we're 30-some% filling, so less than half
Right.
are filling. So at least for a while, I think you'll have plenty of need
People
for
stepping up.
assistance.
And maybe some of those big ticket projects that we were just talking
Yeah.
about would be kind of that avenue, so. No, you're right, it is interesting. It doesn't say much at this point, but it is kind of fascinating how it correlated.
Yeah, and we could run more analysis on types of farms and types of projects that are being done, see if there's been any trends over the years in that area. More farmstead-related practices rather than, field-based. So there's a lot of information that we've got at our fingertips that we could, continue work like this and display, for the committee and really general public to understand more about this program and what we're accomplishing.
Exactly.
The other thing I've kind of noticed, Brian, over the last number of years is it seems like we're funding more projects that are directly correlated to sort of programs, agency programs or agency priorities. And part of that has to do with the scoring system and how we divvy up points. That's the amount of points related to that sort of thing. Has been sort of steadily growing, so it's not surprising that programs.
Like
and I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing. Excuse me.
Like focused on projects with watershed management plans, have
Yeah,
action
exactly.
plan,
Right.
safe
Right.
drinking
or
water,
TMDLs, or have
Yeah.
a source water plan, or Great Lakes, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not saying that's neither here nor there, but I think there is definitely a strong trend toward that, and I just want to bring that up to the state committee, just kick around in their mind when they're driving someplace.
Yeah, and that might actually, I could see where that might change with the climate council's decisions, that we have different priorities going forward, that maybe we'd be scoring differently to meet those new priorities.
Right.
Yeah, because although I think climate resilient farming would be one of the main programs to help address those priorities, there's so many co-benefits, water quality chief among them. So, I think even with ag non-point source and under that lens of climate change adaptation, resiliency, withstanding extreme weather, precipitation, and all of that, bound to see more of that shift in the future.
Amendments?
Yes. So there were two time extension amendments that were submitted for consideration at the meeting today. The first was submitted by the Ontario County Soil and Water Conservation District for a round 24 project. The current end date on this contract is March 1st of 2023. The district is looking to extend the end date to December 31st of 2023, which does take the length of the contract just slightly over 5 years. The reason for the request is cited here on the summary page and was included in the amendment packet that was provided to the voting members in advance of this meeting. PJ Emmerich, Region 2 AA, it should say Region 2, supports the request but refers to the state committee. This contract has also had one prior time extension as well. PJ, is there anything that you would like to add for this request?
No, I think that sums it up. That should do it.
Questions, anyone? Motion to approve, please.
Motion to approve.
Second? Moved and
Second.
seconded. We're going to voting. Scott?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Approved, thank you. Next.
Okay, and our second time extension amendment comes to us from the Lewis County Soil and Water Conservation District, also for a round 24 contract that is set to expire on March 1st of 2023. They are looking to extend this contract for 1 year so that we'll have a new end date of March 1st, 2024. The reason for the request is included in the summary page and has been included in the amendment packet. With the approval of this extension request, the total contract term will be over 5 years. This amendment has been reviewed and is supported by Ryan Cunningham, our Region 4 AEA, but is referred to the state committee. This contract has also had a previous time extension as well. Ryan, do you have anything else you'd like to add on this one?
I know it's a especially big project. I think it's over $1 million contract. I did talk to Paula last year about it, and I think it's just the logistics of extensive engineering, geology, and they had to refer it to a national engineer through NRCS, so it just took some time. The farm and the district both know that they've got one more construction season to kind of put it together, so they're working hard on it.
Questions, anyone? Motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Voting, Scott?
Aye.
Darren?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you. I do have one question, Ryan, on the round 21 and 22. I know they've got time extensions. Are we going to have to start ramping down because COVID is theoretically under control? Time extensions on the far off ones? Ones that are over 5 years?
Yeah, 3 active contracts into 21 and 22. We'll have to take a look and to see what status those are in. It could be that all the work is complete and we're just pending closeout. But
yeah,
we can target our outreach to those districts and find out the status.
Yeah.
Now, I do believe we extended them, if I remember right, back a little ways, but you'd wonder about, I don't know when that extension ran till, but you're out 7 years now anyway. So I just, we can't carry them on forever is all.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll take a look at those and see what the status is and if we can clean those up, get those closed out. We will, and either way, we'll report back at the next committee meeting about those lingering 21s and 22s.
Thank you. Okay. Is that all on amendments?
That is all the amendments I have today.
Thank you. Round 28 and 29 status.
So Tyler already kind of mentioned the I guess contract status of our round 28 contracts. They are all still pending, and we're actually still working on the development of those contracts. On the 2nd of November, we had a plan of work webinar to review the process with districts for developing a plan of work for their round 28 projects. Excuse me. Which then we take and incorporate into their contract. We have set a deadline for districts to have those plans of work submitted to their AEA for review of December 1st. So far, we have about 10 that have been reviewed and submitted to our state office so we can start working on putting those contracts together. Since we made awards on these projects, I have conducted 2 debriefings with districts that wanted to discuss proposals that did not receive funding, and those meetings went really well, and I think the districts found it very helpful to talk through those proposals. And while we're collecting the plans of work from districts, I am also working on putting together information that will be submitted to the Office of the State Comptrollers. The information we have to put together is relative to the RFP solicitation. And they need to review everything and make sure our round was conducted in accordance with their rules and the state requirements. Once that's done, and once we have approval from the OSC, we can then move forward with actually processing the contracts. So while we're waiting for that, we are going to be packaging up the contracts and getting them ready, and hopefully be able to send them down as soon as possible. For round 29, like we talked about during the TAC update, the RFP is still in development, and working to wrap up those discussions and finalize that, which hopefully we'll be able to discuss next month. Any questions on round 28 or round 29? Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Next on our list is the CRF, Jennifer, Abigail, and Tyler.
Shall we follow the same pattern again?
That would be great.
Yeah. Hey, look.
I like that picture. I can actually see who you are.
I can see you guys too. Look at that.
You want me to leave it on the big screen for a minute? All right, CRF program updates. So very similar to Ag Non-Point again. Got some graphs showing the comparison for funding for each round and the total number of contracts here. So we have 5, again, I'm working on that bottom row, 5 active rounds with a total contract amount of right around $17.8 million, and that is across 140 contracts. There are 36 pending contracts for round 6, and those have a total contract amount of about $8.4 million. There are 66 active contracts, and those are at $7 million, give or take a little there. And then districts have completed 29 contracts across the 4 rounds, which I think that should be 5 rounds actually, but implementing just over $2.2 million in best management practices. Again, those are just graphs kind of breaking it down a little bit further. I'm going to jump over to, I did the same thing for CRF as I did for Ag Non-Point. Again, like it was kind of already mentioned, it's far too soon to kind of make any hard set decisions on how things are going. But we can see that this is potentially following suit to kind of what Bethany brought up. Maybe this is the reason that we're kind of seeing a dip in Ag Non-Point source. Not that we're really seeing a dip. I think it's just kind of leveling out a little bit. But as we can see, like round 6 on this one, we are starting to see maybe that trend of where it's going to start leveling out. Again, far too soon to make any kind of analysis decisions on that. I did break apart the CRF, like the contract amount comparisons. So rounds 1 through 2, I broke them out this way. I don't know if it was the best way, but rounds 1 through 2, just over $102,000 for an average contract amount. Rounds 3 through 6, $162,000, so a little bit of an increase there. And then that levels out across all of the rounds at about $127,000. Average contracts, number of contracts per round is right around 25. And then the average funding per round, total funding, was right around $3.2 million. So again, it's way too early to make any decisions, but it is just kind of interesting to see a visual of where things are kind of lining up. So yeah, any questions or comments for CRF?
I've just, put it out there to everyone again. We've got a lot of good information on farms, farm types of projects, and let us know what you'd like to see, and we can pull that out and we can get to a deeper dive on the types of projects and anticipated and estimated perceived outcomes of those projects moving forward. So,
absolutely,
this is great. Thank you, Tyler.
Anything on amendments this one?
We have no amendments for CRF this month.
Round 6 and 7 status.
Great, so I will start us off just wrapping up what we've been working on since pre-Jennifer's return, and then we'll kick it to Jennifer for anything additional. So on October 31st, following our last October state committee meeting, we were able to get approval from the Department of Budget to fund an additional 3 awards, so we could avoid awarding partial awards. So we were able to fund 2 projects in the track 2 and 1 in track 3. And we were also able to send out our non-award letters, and thank you to all of the districts for your patience as we were awaiting approval, and throughout this process, we really appreciate it. And we're currently working to make debriefing appointments with the districts who have requested those, so we will work to get those scheduled as soon as possible. And as Bethany said, we conducted a plan of work webinar joint with both Agnon Point Source and CRF. So we covered all of the information that's needed for the plan of work for CRF and also for Agnon Point Source, as Bethany said. And we have a deadline for districts to submit the plan of work on December 1st. And round 7 RFP, will be discussed at the TAC meeting, the Technical Advisory Committee meeting, and is currently in development and will be presented at the December meeting. Then I will kick it over to Jennifer if she has anything else to add.
Thank you, Abigail. I just really want to thank you for taking on all of the tasks of CRF and keeping it moving forward while I was out. It's great to be back, and we hope to get right on top of round 7 to get that finalized for announcement in January. And I don't really have anything else to add. Abigail did a great, and Tyler did a great status report, and I just want to thank Abigail and all the staff for keeping CRF moving forward while I was out. And that's really all I have. Thanks.
And we are very happy to have you back.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
Anything else on CRF, anyone?
That's all, unless there are questions.
Thanks, everyone. Next on the agenda, and we are ahead of schedule quite a bit. So we do have time if anybody has anything they want to bring up, but for voting, staff, advisory, I'll start with PJ.
Business as usual here in Region 2. A lot of plan of work reviews recently, a couple of closeouts as well, and a few board trainings coming up. So we're happy to see that. And I'm also happy and want to thank my districts for reaching out to me to talk over the performance measures and also to see where they're at for 2022 and going into 2023. So always appreciate that. And other than that, unless anybody has any questions, that's pretty much all I have at this point.
Ryan?
Sure, yeah, thanks. The regional field staff are working on preparing an agenda for the upcoming managers meeting in mid-December, 13th and 14th in East Syracuse. We've been putting a lot of time into kind of discussing that agenda. The save the date and the RSVP went out this past week. Franklin County helped us set up a Google link to kind of see who's been signing up. So we've got a kind of a running tally there. We'll check it midweek and kind of reach out personally to districts that we haven't seen on there yet to kind of make sure that everyone's that it can make it, will make it. Like PJ, some district board meeting trainings going on at the end of the year, hitting performance measures. I do see several districts asking about strategic planning and long-term planning, which is kind of nice. Annual plans of work are good to review, but it's sort of important to remember that those should be sort of a small slice in the larger long-term planning goals for a lot of these districts, and even coalitions as well. I know Quickney is meeting tomorrow, the Champlain Coalition up in Warren County, and they are working through their final stages of their 5-year strategic plan, which will include, hopefully in the future, an actual coalition employee to kind of lead those efforts, which is good to see, so we may know more about that in the future. Otherwise, been spending a lot of time looking at plans of work for Ag Non-Point Round 28 and CRF 6. A lot of nice applications coming through from the North Country, kind of tweaking a few things here and there and making sure everything's kind of teed up for those contracts in the future. So that's basically it for now. Thanks.
Thanks. Tyler, anything?
I got nothing at this point.
All right. Scott, you got anything to add?
This year, month.
Thank you. Dave, you have anything?
No, I don't.
Thank you. Turn it over to you, Brian.
Okay, we'll cover reports in the room, and then I'll go through the advisory members that are on the line with us as well. Ben, you have anything else?
Pretty much like PJ and Ryan said, a lot of board meetings, some trainings, plans of work, that sort of thing, but rest of it's business as usual. I will say for Part B, requests were due from the districts for 2023 on November 1st. They were all in on time. I've made it through looking at the claims for payment, but I'm still reviewing about half of the actual requests. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I'll get through all of those, and then payments will be sent out to the districts. But that's it.
Thank you, Ben. I guess I'll go real quick, just a little bit more on the Climate Action Council, the CLCPA. We continue to work here as a staff team at Ag and Markets and DEC to continue with the second red line edits, as they're referred to, of our chapter, Ag and Forestry, and also land use and local government. We have a few strategies under the land use section. So our pencils down deadline was yesterday. I think we met that. So this latest round of edits was in response to Climate Action Council member comments. And over the series of the next couple of meetings, the council will be hearing more from other chapters that haven't reported yet initially. And then also we'll be reviewing the second draft, or I should hopefully say final draft, of our chapters in anticipation of approval by that December 5th meeting. So really the council's been meeting in person every 2 weeks. So multiple meetings a month, and all in anticipation of review and voting on the scoping plan that will set the direction for the coming years. And I just want to thank the regional staff as well for all their work on this managers meeting, putting that back together, first time since 2018. Honestly, wouldn't be possible without all of their efforts. So not just in setting the agenda, but in communicating with the hotel, and even before that, receiving quotes from other hotels, and all of the logistics. So looking forward to it, 13th and 14th, getting an opportunity to be face-to-face networking with our conservation districts and talk about all the things that are going on in both the agricultural protection areas as well as the conservation program areas. So Our staff here at the division in the Ag Protection Program will also be on hand and providing some really great information and answering questions of districts in those areas. And then again, just looking at the future of the work that we're doing. So really looking forward to this meeting. Thanks all the regional staff for spearheading this. I think that's all I have, unless I think of something later, I'll take that opportunity, but any questions, comments? Okay. Darren?
Not a whole lot. Farm Bureau, holding state annual meeting December 6th and 7th, so I'll be heading to that here in a couple weeks. And then Otsego County District, we've finally have a new district manager, so we're extremely excited. And we have a new office manager starting in another week or so. So big changes there. Neither one of them are have really any district background. So there's a lot of learning to do, but the district manager, his background is actually more environmental research, but he has quite a bit of grant and administrative background. But that's kind of what we were looking for. So yeah, so we're excited to not have 2 meetings a month. keeping the ball rolling in Otsego. So
excellent.
That's all I have.
That's great to hear. Thank you, Darren. Any questions or comments for Darren? Bethany, anything more?
Nothing further.
Okay.
Did the chat. Just really quickly, we identified and we've been getting some questions. The Ag Non-Point Source, AM, and CRF outreach materials are more or less out of date. They're still functional, but they have the incorrect website URL, and there's some need of updating. And so we were able to find some funding for outreach materials, both paper and others. And we are very excited that we were able to print off a bunch of new updated Ag Non-Point Source and AIM brochures and CRF rat cards. So those will be brought to the managers meeting in December and distributed to the districts, so we can have new outreach materials. And if we need to do another printing later on, we can absolutely do that. But we wanted to get these out the door so we can make sure that everything is all updated. And we'll be working on more outreach materials in the future, updated grant matrices, potentially some hats. And so we're really excited to be able to have some funding for those things to come.
Thank you, Abigail. Okay, I'm going to run through our advisory members that are on the line with us. Starting with Ag and Markets. Jeff, do you have anything to report to the committee?
Thank you, but nothing to report at this time.
Okay. Asking if anyone else from Ag and Markets might have joined since we did our welcome. Okay. Dustin, CDEA.
Yeah, just a quick couple things. Water Quality Symposium announcements should be going out next month. So looking forward to that again. And our next meeting is November 30th. It'll be held in Plattsburgh.
Excellent. On the banks of Lake Champlain? You hold on to monitor?
Too far. Too far from
right. Excellent. Thank you, Dustin. Any questions or comments for Dustin? Okay, wondering if anybody from DEC has joined since our welcome this morning. Okay, Paul, Department of Health. Paul, do you have anything to report to the committee? May have stepped away for a minute. Stephanie, Department of State.
Hello. I don't really have too much. We're still working through CFA and our awards for LWRP, Smart Growth, and BOA, but we're hoping to announce fairly soon. And we have a new staff person starting in a couple weeks, which is good. Finally, getting some new staff in, and she's got a strong water quality background, so hoping to build back up our watershed planning and water quality unit again. So that's exciting. But other than that, not much. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to meeting her, and if you'd like, to set up a meeting with us, kind of orientate her to the state committee a little bit, if that would be helpful.
That'd be great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie. All right. Beth Claypool was on, but she had to step away. So we'll go to Cornell Canals. Brian?
Hey, Brian. Thanks. This is Brian. I just wanted to promote an application that we just put out jointly with New York Sea Grant. It's called My Coast New York. It doesn't have to be coastal. It's actually it's an app that allows us, among other things, to document storm damage in a particular area. I encourage people who are interested in that to check it out. And if you have questions, you should be able to find out, who to address those questions to in the app itself, or go ahead and contact me.
That is awesome. When you said application, I just automatically assumed application for funding or a program, but that is really great.
No, yeah,
is there
mobile app.
Mobile app, nice. Any information that we could drop in the chat or put in the minutes? As far as link or
The link is in the chat.
links in the chat already? Oh,
I have the link to the main website there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep. Any questions or comments for Brian? Okay. Let's move on. I don't think anyone from NRCS is on. But Steve, SUNY ESF.
Sure. I guess just as a quick update, the NYSERD has been funding a report on climate impact in New York State. This is sort of in parallel to the CLCPA work. That's focused on mitigation, but more on adaptation. I think they're hoping to have that out in spring or maybe early summer 2023. But there might be some content there and sort of some materials that sort of help support the CRF program. So just some notes of where that's at.
That's great, Steve. Yeah, thank you for that. I think we've been involved in some of the development of that report, and really appreciate that reminder that is also something that's running parallel to the CLCPA, and focusing on adaptation and resilience really critical to our work. Thank you, Steve.
Sure.
Any
Hey,
questions or comments? Yes, Paul?
This is Paul. Yeah, I had to step away for a second there. If you asked
Okay.
if we had any comments. The Watershed Agricultural Program had a presentation last week from Sarah Latessa from DEC about the new CAFO permit, which takes effect January 1st, 2023. The reason for that was, for the first time ever, there may be a farm that qualifies as a CAFO in the New York City watershed. And it brought up a lot of really interesting questions in the sense that unlike the vast majority of CAFO farms where, they're a dairy or a large beef feeding operation or a hog farm, where you're dealing with one type of one animal and basically in a large barn. In this case, it's a farm that's spread over 3 different farmsteads within the same family, and they have a pretty good sized dairy operation, a good sized beef operation, but they also have they pasture pigs, they have goats, sheep, and laying hens. And so how that would all come together under a CAFO permit is really interesting. And to my knowledge, it's the only farm that I've come across that has so many different operations scattered over such a large area. And I know, Sarah tried to answer all the members' questions as best she could, but it is a kind of unique situation. So I just wanted to bring that up for everybody, and it'll be interesting to see whether they decide to continue to expand this operation and get a KFO permit, or what the farm decides to do in the long term. Thanks.
Paul, is that all under one farm name?
Yes, Albano Farms. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow. It might be better off to break the farm up into a few different
Well,
family members.
that's what came to my. But it's a family thing, so they'll have to work that out by themselves. Yeah. But yeah, that seems like the easiest way to go with it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Okay, am I missing any advisory members? Okay, we'll go on to additional state committee staff reports for those on the line. Scott Fickbaum, you got anything for the group?
I would just piggyback on what some of the other regional coordinators have said in terms of workload. A lot of plans of work and annual plans of work coming in to be reviewed. But as the CREP coordinator, I can report that thanks to Tyler and to Greg and Bethany, I've got a readout for round 27 in terms of nutrient and sediment reductions in the CREP eligible waterways, the dollar amounts put forward in terms of our match, and also have got the information from USDA regarding CREP contracts, and happy to report there. No spoilers here, but the activity has gone up, and so that all positions me to be able to submit the state's annual CREP report, which will probably be done early this year in November. I'm really just waiting for success stories, challenges, suggestions for improvement back from districts who have CREP eligible watersheds in their county. That solicitation went out last week, and I guess perhaps I'll give it another week for folks to get word back. So if anybody on this call meeting knows of a district that is active in CREP, maybe they can mention it. This is a time where things can be put into the annual report, which is provided to Congress. So it is an opportunity to reflect and send suggestions and whatnot, and I just encourage everybody to do that. But other than that, Brian, it's just been the types of work that the other guys have mentioned. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. And maybe we could in January. December might be a little bit busy, but in January, have you present the annual CREP report to the committee so we can have a conversation on all those things you just mentioned, challenges, but also success stories and where we're at. I'm intrigued also by your preview that activities are up, which is really great to hear.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that, so no problems.
Great, thank you, Scott. Okay, Jennifer, anything more to add to the group or for the group?
Sorry, out of practice. No, I don't have anything to add. I will just add on to Steve Shaw's comment about NYSERDA's assessment. We have been involved. I've been sitting in on those meetings, so that information should be helpful. It has been good to hear from farmers directly that have been involved in that group and the discussion. So yeah, that is a report that will be helpful to us, and we have been involved in it a little bit. That's all. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. Brendan.
Sorry about the button. Nothing to report. Thank you, Brian.
All right. Thank you, Brendan. Victor.
Yeah,
Thanks, Brian. As Scott said, a lot of the same activities that are being described in other regions are also occurring in Western New York as well. I will say, specific to Western New York, I wanted to announce that December 15th, the Western New York Soil Health Alliance will be holding their annual meeting and soil health workshop. That'll be convening in Batavia, and I believe this year they're partnering with American Farmland Trust to bring together a real robust agenda for the group. And other than that, holiday season, happy holidays.
Oh, thank you, Victor. Appreciate that. At Western New York Soil Health Alliance has been going strong for so many years. Thank you for that as well. Look forward to hearing the report out on that event. Okay. Greg.
Thanks, Brian. Just do a quick plug for the 2022 Northeast Region Certified Crop Advisor Conference. I'll put the link and the details in the chat after this, but that's on schedule for November 29th and 30th in person at the Doubletree in Syracuse, which is a nice return to some normalcy. And then a virtual session in the mornings of December 13th and 14th. And if there are any districts on the phone line that want to navigate that in the membership meeting, give me a call. There's a solution and a pathway for that. A nice thing about being in person is that we're able to offer a really robust basic training track, which is essentially a good training in basic agronomy, as well, and environmental management, as well as preparation for the 2 exams that are required to become a certified crop advisor. So, it's sort of okay doing it virtually. It's much better. And thanks to Joe Lawrence from Cornell Pro Dairy for really leading that charge and making it better than we've been able to do, especially since we've had to go virtual with it. The other track is an advanced track, and that has many really great topics there that you can see in the link that I'll post in just a sec, including, there's the link, including Brian Steinmuller doing an overview of the Climate Action Council scoping plan and opportunities with our programs that support those priorities, like the upcoming climate resilient farming program. So, Dale, that'll be a good chance to talk about these opportunities with a whole bunch of certified crop advisors, AIM certified planners, who have clients that could benefit from those practice systems. And happy, restful Thanksgiving to everybody.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for that plug on CCA. I'm looking forward to that. One of my favorite topics to talk about. So appreciate it. I believe Ron has joined us. Ron, do you have anything to report to the committee?
Brian, no updates today. Maybe a program update next month.
All right, sounds good, Ron. I'll hold you to it. Okay, am I missing any state committee staff? All right, at this time, any conservation district partners on the line? If you've got anything to report or to ask to the committee, now's your chance. Go ahead and take your phone off mute. Okay, any other conservation partners and members of the public on the line? If you've got anything to report to the committee or ask of the committee, now's an opportunity. Please go ahead and take your phone off mute. All right, I think that might have been long enough pause. So Dale, back to you.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, everyone. I do have one thing to add, and I don't know how it's going to affect us yet in the long run. I'm hearing an awful lot of pessimism in the agriculture community that is high labor, fruit, vegetable, dairy, due to the overtime threshold dropping to 40 hours a week from 60. I'm hearing things like no more capital investments, possibly switching out of that commodity in the long run. I don't know how it has the potential to affect soil and water and what we do if you see a lot of especially the medium-sized farms step out because they're the ones that are going to be stressed the most by it. It's too early to tell because we don't know you don't know what prices will do to offset. It's hard to predict the future. No, everybody can see that, but just to tell you, alone on my farm, we think it'll cost us $200,000 a year extra. That takes out of a lot of capital investments, and so you question long range how that's going to affect. I'm hearing a lot of young people on farms very pessimistic about why we're investing into something that may not be worthwhile, and that maybe we need to do something else. I just want to bring that up. Don't know how it'll affect us. Next meeting, proposed December 20th. Voting members, what do they think? Dave?
Catch that, he said it was fine.
I think.
Okay. Thank you,
Dave?
Scott.
Scott, I heard okay. Dave? December 20th?
Yeah, as far as I know right now.
Okay.
To the hospital. That'll be the next thing you keep
Well,
out.
good luck with the knee. Darren, it's okay with you?
As far as I can tell.
Okay. We'll
Yeah,
go
I'll
with
check.
December 20th.
I'll check with Erica as well, but she's got this agenda, so she's probably seen that, so I'm sure she would have reached out if that was an issue. And, it's obviously very close to the holidays, but third Tuesday, we'll try to do something close to what we're doing here. A couple of public locations for our voting members and other members of the public to attend, and the virtual option for others who don't have to be in a public location. I think this is working out pretty well so far.
Yeah, this is working well. For the first time back at it, yeah, it's working well. We get it going again, we'll get a good turnout here again. Take a little time. Well,
It's been a pretty
anything
good
else?
turnout here today with virtual participation. I think we were up to about 41 or 42 people, so.
Well, you know
Imagine
that many.
all
I
that.
can't, from here I can't tell.
I know, imagine all that in one conference room. It would have been a lot of faces.
Fantastic.
Yep.
All right, meeting's adjourned. Everyone have a very, very, very happy and fulfilling Thanksgiving.
The same to you.
Thank you. Same to you, same to them. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Take care.
Take care.